Hello, Void. How you doing? So, I'm on a vacation, so I think I'm going to be doing a lot more of these. And while I'm on such vacation, I'm going to be making extensive use of Shudder. Particularly, I'm scrolling all the way back through Shudder's catalog, sorting it by recent, since I can't sort it by oldest for some reason, and just going back all the way, see whatever's there, and slowly working my way forward. Trying to get at least one movie a day in, if all goes well. So, watched one last night, and away we went. And I will say I was quite happy to finally get around to seeing something by Lucio Fulci. Now, he's been on my radar for a while, but I hadn't actually sat down to watch any of his films. And I know he was infamous for over the top gore and a burning hatred of eyes. Both hold true. Now, the one I ended up watching was The Beyond, which is the second in his Gates of Hell trilogy. I don't think they're directly connected, so I didn't feel too off about watching the one that's in the middle. And I really wasn't thrown for a loop by it or anything. It didn't seem to need any previous knowledge. I will say a lot of the reviews that I'd seen, kind of glancing, all talk about not don't expect it to make sense or hard to follow. I didn't really find that. I was able to keep with it pretty well. I mean, it could just be the Italian style of filmmaking, but things kind of jump a little bit without immediate explanation. An example of that would be when the plumber is going down to the basement to try to fix it. He Something comes out of the wall and kills him, and then his body is found pretty shortly thereafter, and then just kind of jumps to a hospital. And some characters are talking about, oh, that the plumber was found and now he's here getting an autopsy. Like, they don't really show a lot of the transitions from here to there, and it does some similar things like that every so often. So you're not always sure who's aware of what's going on because it doesn't pause to tell you. It seems to be more of a filmmaking style thing, but like plotline, I was able to follow it. The one thing, it just there's some things it just doesn't completely explain, though it hints intriguingly at, which in a way kind of works. All right, so plot on this one. This one is set in Louisiana. The Beyond came out in 1981, by the way. Okay. Um, Louisiana. And it's set in a hotel that a young woman just recently inherited. And pretty much she's throwing everything into this hotel because it's her last real shot since she's failed at every other job that she's attempted. Anyway, this hotel unfortunately happens to be built over one of the seven gates to hell. That was kind of jimmied loose 50 or so years ago by a painter warlock who was living at the site at the time. He may have actually been trying to keep it closed, but he was lynched, and then his angry spirit seems to be now prying it open. And so bad and spooky things happen to anyone in the house, and anyone who tries to warn or do anything about the house also experiences an incident, even if they're well away from the property, as it's the powers of hell that are coming out to get them. So it doesn't always explain how or why these things are happening, but you can kind of follow that it's just this evil leaking out. The main character, oh, what was her name? It's escaping me at the second. Liza does meet Emily, a blind girl who starts ominously trying to warn her, but feels like she can only say too much, or so much. And she's also aided by Dr. McCabe, who's seeing the odd bodies that are turning up from here and is trying to help figure out what's going on. And, well, it's whether or not he believes her, as she's now beginning to increasingly find strange things happening. So, does it beat the over-the-top horror reputation of Fulci? Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, this was definitely a squishy movie. It doesn't shy away from going after it. And Lucio Fulci's hatred of eyes, well, there's several blind characters. And, for one. And, well, there's 3 eye gouging scenes. So, each are actually rather different. I was not expecting someone's eye to be put out by a tarantula, but here we are. The music score actually is quite standoutish. Some of it doesn't seem to always fit the scene, but it's intriguing. It pulls you in. I really did like the atmosphere it kind of gave for it. The Italian title of this movie, because this one is dubbed, and I will say it was dubbed better than most of films that I see that have been dubbed over. The original Italian title is Et tu vivrai nel terror l'albilia. I don't speak Italian. That's probably terrible, but translates to "And you will live in fear, the afterlife." So the beyond, the afterlife. Okay, see where they come from. But this movie is known by several titles and was only relatively recently released in its uncut form, thanks largely in part to Quentin Tarantino, who helped piece it back together, since this movie has been cut for so long. Let me see. Oh, wrong page of my notes. So, this one's also commonly known as Seven Doors of Darkness, I think. Yeah, no, Seven Doors of Death, my bad. I just reviewed Seven Nights of Darkness recently. Seven Doors of Death. But The Beyond seems to be the main title that kind of gets traction over here. And yeah, it was engaging. The one thing I couldn't quite figure out, and they were trying to make it mysterious, was the blind girl Emily, who seems to only exist to the one main character, and when the doctor goes looking for her, her house is abandoned, and it's like, I know people, the people who live around here, there's no blind girl. So where she came from is kind of unclear, but when she starts talking to some of the dead people that have come out of hell, it sounds like she's being dragged back to hell, so it seems like maybe she was something that leaked out and maybe was trying to help. Was punished when she said too much. Also, fun little slip in. If you've watched any of my videos on anything Lovecraft related, I'm a fan. So I was quite surprised to see one of the first things in this movie was reference to the Book of Eibon, which was a Clark Ashton Smith creation, and it's usually then his version of the Necronomicon from Lovecraft's writings. So that was a fun little slip in. That book seems to feature relatively prominently throughout this. Is apparently the book of a sorcerer who was tied in with the Seven Doors to Hell. So yeah, kind of cool. I'm gonna give this one 7 MacGuffins. I really did enjoy it. It was engaging. The gore effects are very good, and the practical effects, while not always the most convincing, are still enough to make you a little. And yeah, it was an enjoyable film. I highly recommend it. If you're okay with over-the-top gore effects, they're very dated gore effects, but they definitely they don't shy away. So yeah, if you're interested in over-the-top Italian gore flicks, yeah, give Fulci a shot, and The Beyond is a good one. I know a lot of people say The Beyond might be his best of the trilogy or his Gates to Hell trilogy, which it's kind of hard for me to remember which ones those are since they aren't like laid out as sequels. The first one is City of the Living Dead, and then House by the Cemetery is the one that follows this. Okay, I think that's all on this one. So have a good day, and I'll see you guys soon.